Let me tell you something most people never understand about human attraction. You can't force someone to miss you. You can't chase them, text them every hour, drop hints, or beg for their attention and magically expect to live rent-free in their mind. That's not how this works. In fact, the more you chase, the less they crave you. The more you try to remind them of your worth, the more they start questioning it. But when you know how to activate the psychological triggers that make a man miss you deeply, that's when everything changes. That's when you stop chasing and they start wondering why they can't stop thinking about you. So let me break it down for you. Missing someone isn't about physical distance. It's about emotional absence. It's the space you create, the mystery you leave behind, the self-respect you radiate. That makes him sit with his own thoughts and realize, damn, she's not chasing me. She's not begging for my attention. And yet I can't stop thinking about her. It starts with energy. A woman who knows her worth never overgives. She doesn't flood his phone with messages. She doesn't rearrange her life every time he shows interest. She isn't desperate to fill the silence. And that silence is powerful. It creates space, and space creates reflection. Here's the psychology. When something is constantly available, the brain stops valuing it. But when there's unpredictability, when there's a gap, the brain fixates. It wonders. It romanticizes. It creates stories. And suddenly, he's not thinking about the last time you texted him. He's thinking about how much he misses your presence, your energy, your vibe, the unique way you made him feel. But here's the twist. You can't fake this. You can't play hard to get from a place of insecurity. You can't pretend to be busy when you're obsessing over your phone. That energy, it leaks. And men, especially emotionally intelligent men, sense it. The only way to make a man miss you deeply is to actually be busy building a life that excites you. A life filled with purpose, passion, friends, growth, and joy. It's when your world doesn't revolve around him that he starts wondering how to become part of your world. And yes, it's hard. It takes self-control to lean back. It takes confidence to stop over-explaining, over-giving, over-chasing. It takes emotional maturity to create space, even when you miss him. But trust me, that space, that's where desire lives. That's where he starts realizing your absence is louder than your presence ever was. It's not about games. It's not about manipulation. It's about being a woman who knows her worth, lives her life, and understands. If he's the right man, the distance won't push him away. It will pull him in. It will make him miss you deeply. And when that happens, you'll never have to chase again. Emotional absence creates desire, not physical distance. Let me tell you something most people completely overlook when it comes to attraction. Making a man miss you isn't about vanishing for weeks or playing games. It's not about making him jealous or pulling away so aggressively that it feels manipulative. It's far more subtle and far more powerful than that. See, what really makes a man miss you isn't physical distance. It's emotional absence. Think about it. Have you ever been in a room with someone and still felt completely disconnected from them? That's because physical closeness means nothing if there's no emotional energy being exchanged. The reverse is also true. You can be miles apart, but if the emotional bond is strong, they feel your presence constantly. But here's where it gets interesting. The moment you consciously create emotional space, when you stop over-investing, over-explaining, over-chasing, you trigger something in his psychology that most people never talk about. Suddenly, there's room for him to feel your absence. And that space, that's where his mind starts to wander. That's where curiosity creeps in. That's where desire starts to build. But most people are terrified of creating that space. They rush to fill every silence.
They double text.
They check in constantly. They over-explain why. Because silence feels uncomfortable. because we're afraid if we're not present every second, they'll forget about us. But the truth is, it's in that silence that they remember you. When you stop being so accessible, so available, so emotionally invested, you flip the dynamic. You go from being the one craving their attention to being the person they wonder about when they lay in bed at night. And it's not about ghosting them or playing childish games. It's about understanding human psychology. We miss what we can't constantly access. We crave what feels slightly out of reach. We desire what carries an air of mystery. The moment you stop flooding his world with your energy, even with good intentions, you create space for his mind to start working. Where is she? What's she thinking about? Why hasn't she reached out? Is she missing me, or has she moved on? And trust me, the moment those thoughts creep in, you become more attractive in his eyes. You become the mystery he wants to solve. You become the woman he realizes he misses deeply. But here's the key. You can't fake this. This only works when the space you create is authentic. When you actually lean back, when you actually invest that energy into yourself, when you actually stop trying to control the outcome. It's uncomfortable, sure. It takes strength. It takes self-worth. But when you understand that emotional absence, not physical distance, is the real trigger for longing, you stop chasing and they start missing you deeply. And that's where the real magic happens. Stop overgiving. Your energy should be earned. Most people misunderstand the power of restraint when it comes to attraction, especially when emotions are involved. The temptation to overgive becomes overwhelming. You want to show him you care. You want to remind him how special you are. You want to make sure he doesn't forget about you. But let me tell you something, most people won't. Overgiving kills desire. Think about it. We're wired to value what feels earned, not what's handed to us on a silver platter. When you give too much too soon without him working for it, it doesn't feel special anymore. It feels expected. It feels ordinary. And that's the last thing you want to be, ordinary. The truth is, your attention, your energy, your time, these are valuable. They should feel earned, and not because you're playing games or trying to be manipulative, but because you understand your worth. You respect yourself enough to know that love isn't built by pouring endlessly into someone who hasn't shown up for you yet. The moment you flood a man's world with attention, with constant messages, with endless availability, you remove the mystery, you remove the effort, you remove his opportunity to show up for you. And here's where it gets real. A man who doesn't have to invest, who doesn't have to wonder, who doesn't have to work for your energy, will never value it in the same way. But when you lean back, when you give just enough to spark curiosity, but not enough to satisfy it, when you leave space for him to step into the connection, instead of filling all the gaps yourself, that's when things change. Because when a man earns your attention, he treasures it. When he earns your vulnerability, he protects it. When he earns your time, he stops taking it for granted. But if you hand all of that over for free, hoping it will make him miss you, you're not building attraction, you're building comfort. And comfort is not the same as desire. Here's the harsh truth. Some of you are giving a man girlfriend energy while he's giving you maybe energy. You're showing up like you're in a committed, loving relationship when he hasn't even proven he deserves that level of access to you yet. And that's how people get stuck, chasing, over-explaining, feeling unappreciated, wondering why they're being taken for granted. But the moment you stop overgiving, the moment you lean into your own life, your passions, your growth, the moment your energy becomes something he has to own, that's when he starts to miss you. That's when he starts to value you. That's when he starts wondering how to keep you. And trust me, a man values what he works for, not what's handed to him without effort. So protect your energy. Let him, because that's the only way he'll truly miss you deeply.
Unpredictability sparks obsession.
Have you ever noticed how people become obsessed with the things they can't predict? It's basic human psychology. Our brains are wired to seek certainty, but we're hooked on unpredictability. It keeps us intrigued, alert, invested. That's why unpredictability, when used with confidence and authenticity, is one of the most powerful tools to make a man miss you deeply. Let me explain. When everything about you is predictable, your responses, your schedule, your attention, it creates comfort, but it doesn't create longing. It feels safe, sure, but safe isn't always sexy. Safe doesn't leave him wondering what you're thinking. Safe doesn't leave him replaying your words or analyzing your silences. Unpredictability, on the other hand, awakens his curiosity. Think about this. Imagine a slot machine. Why do people get addicted to them? It's because they're unpredictable. Every pull, every moment, there's uncertainty. You don't know if this is the moment you hit the jackpot, and that unpredictability keeps you invested, even obsessed. Now, I'm not saying relationships are a casino game, but the same psychological trigger applies. When you create a little mystery, when you don't always respond instantly, when your energy isn't on demand, when you have a life so full that he wonders what you're doing, who you're with, how you're feeling, that unpredictability makes him pay attention. It sparks his imagination. It keeps you on his mind even when you're not physically present. But here's where most people get it wrong. Unpredictability isn't about playing childish games. It's not about ghosting or being inconsistent because you're scared. It's about genuinely living a life that's not centered around him. It's about being so invested in your own growth, your passions, your friendships, your purpose, that your attention is a choice, not a guarantee. And when your attention feels like a choice, not an expectation, it becomes rare. And when something feels rare, the brain values it. It starts to crave it. That's how you make a man miss you deeply, not through drama, not through forced distance, but by creating space filled with your confidence, your independence, your mystery. Unpredictability keeps him guessing, keeps him curious, keeps him invested. It turns ordinary moments into intriguing ones. It makes your presence feel like a gift, not a given. And it ensures that when you are present, he values it. So stop being the woman who's always available, always explaining, always reassuring. Be the woman who lives fully, who gives energy with intention, who leaves space for desire to build. Because when a man doesn't know exactly what you'll say, what you'll do, how available you'll be, that unpredictability doesn't push him away. It pulls him in. It makes him miss you. It makes him crave you. It makes him obsessed in the best possible way. You can't fake confidence. Your energy speaks louder than words. Let's get brutally honest for a second. You can say all the right things. You can play hard to get. You can even create distance. Lean back, give him space. But if your energy isn't aligned with your words, if your confidence isn't real, if your mindset is rooted in fear, anxiety, or desperation, it leaks. And men, especially men with even the slightest emotional awareness, can sense it. See, you can't fake confidence. You can fake indifference. Sure, you can fake being busy. You can fake not caring for a little while. But your energy, that's the truth serum. It exposes everything. The woman who tries to play hard to get but checks her phone every 5 seconds to see if he's replied, he feels that. The woman who pretends she's too busy but secretly rearranges her entire life, if he shows interest, he picks up on that. The woman who says, I'm focusing on myself, but spends her nights stalking his social media. Believe me, that energy shows real confidence, real magnetic energy. It doesn't come from trying to manipulate an outcome. It comes from actually building a life that excites you. It comes from waking up and feeling proud of your own growth, from investing in your passions, your health, your friends, your purpose. It comes from knowing that your world doesn't revolve around him. And that's where the real shift happens. When a woman genuinely lives with purpose, when her energy radiates self-respect and joy, when she's not acting confident, but being confident, that energy is irresistible. It makes a man sit up and take notice. It makes him realize she's not here waiting for me. She's not obsessing, she's living. And that's when his attraction deepens. That's when the longing kicks in. That's when he starts missing you deeply, because he knows you're not the woman he can breadcrumb. You're not the woman desperate for scraps of attention. You're not the woman whose self-worth depends on his approval. You're the woman who knows that if he doesn't show up properly, someone else will.
And that quiet confidence.
That unspoken energy, it pulls him in more powerfully than any text, tactic, or game ever could. It's the difference between chasing and attracting, between controlling and inspiring, between forcing connection and becoming unforgettable. So here's the truth most people won't tell you. Stop trying to pretend you're confident. Be confident, not for him, but for you. Because the moment you do, you won't need to chase a man, they'll chase you. And not just casually, but deeply. Desire grows in the space you leave behind. Have you ever noticed how the most powerful moments in attraction often happen in silence? It's not always in the grand gestures, the romantic declarations, or the constant communication. Sometimes it's in the space you leave behind. It's in the quiet moments where your presence is absent, and that absence speaks volumes. See, most people are afraid of silence. They rush to fill every gap with messages, calls, attention, reassurance, because silence feels risky. It feels like the connection is slipping away. It feels like uncertainty, and uncertainty feels uncomfortable. But here's the truth. Desire doesn't grow in constant communication. It grows in the space you create. When you stop over-explaining your feelings, when you stop filling every moment with attention, when you stop chasing and demanding validation, you create a vacuum. And that vacuum, that's where reflection begins. That's where a man starts to sit with his own thoughts. That's where he starts to feel the absence of your energy. And the more he feels your absence, the more he realizes how much he misses your presence. It's simple human psychology. We value what we don't constantly have access to. We appreciate what feels rare. We long for what isn't guaranteed. And when you create space, real, intentional space, you give him room to recognize your value without having to shout it. You give him time to reflect, to wonder, to romanticize. You allow him to feel the contrast between a life with you and a life without you. But this isn't about ghosting. It's not about passive-aggressive silence. It's not about playing childish games to make him miss you. It's about having the strength and confidence to lean back, to allow space to exist, to trust that if he's truly interested, your absence will only amplify his desire. Think about it. Have you ever missed someone because they texted you 20 times a day? No. You miss someone when their energy is suddenly absent, when their words, their attention, their presence, the things you got used to are no longer there. And that absence, it creates longing. It makes the mind wander. It builds desire. But only if it's done with confidence. Only if you're not secretly panicking behind the scenes. Only if you're actually focused on your own life, your own growth, your own happiness, because that's what makes the space powerful. It's not empty space. It's space filled with your quiet confidence, your self-worth, your independence. And that energy is magnetic. So stop being afraid of silence. Stop rushing to fill the gaps. Stop over-explaining, over-giving, over-chasing. Create space. Let him sit with his own thoughts. Let him miss your energy deeply. Because in that space, that's where desire lives. And that's where he starts to realize you were never just another woman. You were unforgettable. If he's the right man, distance pulls him closer, not away. Let me share a truth that most people either miss or refuse to accept. When a man is emotionally available, when he's secure, when he's actually ready for something meaningful, your independence doesn't scare him. It excites him. It pulls him in. It makes him chase you deeply. See, there's this misconception floating around that if you give a man space, if you focus on yourself, if you stop being hyper available, he'll simply drift away and forget you. And sure, that might happen with the wrong man. But here's the thing. If a man is the right man, emotionally mature, secure within himself, and truly interested, distance doesn't push him away. It pulls him closer. Why? Because your independence signals strength. It shows him you're not clinging to him for validation. You're not using him as your emotional life raft. You've built a life you love, with or without him. And that energy, that's irresistible. When you lean back, when you create space, when you stop trying to fill every silence, answer every message instantly, or revolve your world around him, you give him the greatest gift, an opportunity to choose you. And the right man, he wants to choose you. He wants to step up. He wants to invest. He wants to feel like he earned your energy, your time, your affection. Because men, just like women, value what they invest in. We all do. But when you're constantly chasing, overgiving, making yourself available at the drop of a hat, you remove the challenge. You remove the intrigue. You remove the space for him to even miss you. But when you create that space, when you lean into your own life, when you cultivate your own happiness, your passions, your growth, the right man sees it and it inspires him to rise. It triggers his natural desire to pursue, not because you're playing games, but because your energy demands respect. Let's be clear, an avoidant, emotionally unavailable man might run from your independence. Good. Let him. That's not the man you want building a life with you anyway. But the man who's ready, the man who values strength, confidence, independence, your space won't intimidate him. It'll attract him. Your silence won't confuse him. It'll make him curious. Your absence won't push him away. It'll remind him how much your presence matters. So never fear distance. Never shrink your world to fit inside his. Never apologize for your independence. Because the right man, distance doesn't make him forget you. It makes him chase you. It makes him appreciate you. It makes him miss you deeply. And that's when real attraction begins.